Yo. Analytics off the chain, all the channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Welcome back into the Fantasy Headliners. Your boy Kyle back with my wide receiver and tight end rankings for Week 8 of the NFL season. I got my top 50 wide receivers and my top 20 tight ends to get you through this week. But before we jump into all the rankings, don't forget, we've got ourselves a goal right now for memberships here on YouTube set at 550. Y'all help us get to 500 last week. Can you help us get to 550 this week? We're about 20 some odd short. So hey, by the time we get to the live show on Saturday night, why don't we hit that goal of 550? All you got to do to join, there is a link down in the description of this video. It's one of the very first links that you will see after the timestamps. And maybe if you scroll down just a little bit next to subscribe, there's a join button. Either way, you can hit that button or click on the link and you can go and join for only $4.99 a month. You get an extra live show with me on Sunday mornings that only has access to members. You get a giveaway every single Sunday. You get a signed piece of autograph. You get a chance to win that, right? That's awesome. You get some extra content during the week and you get some sweet badges and emojis to show everybody you are a part of the exclusive Headliner Nation. Help us get to that goal of 550 by Saturday night. It'd be greatly appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, how do the rankings work? Well, just to remind everybody, in case you're wondering or you put something in the comments and I have to say maybe you should have listened at the beginning, just a reminder with how I do my rankings now. The start and sit video is always based on everybody's floor. Do I think they can hit 10 fantasy points or not? If I don't think so, I'm not going to list them as a start. However, based on certain criteria, they could have a ceiling that is higher than 10 fantasy points if things go right for them. So that's how I do my ranking. So if for some reason you see somebody listed that was a sit, but they're above somebody I had as a start, it's just because I think they do have more potential this week. But I want to give you two different viewpoints, and that's why I do kind of the floor on the start and sit and the ceiling here in the rankings. So time to jump into it. The top 50 wide receivers for Week 8. Starting at the very top, number 1, Cooper Kupp. The dude just continues to ball out, and now he gets the Houston Texans. Who wouldn't want to play the Houston Texans? Tyreek Hill at number 2 going up against the New York Giants. Yeah, this team hasn't been great. Kansas City's struggling a little bit. We know Tyreek Hill is still a beast. Ja'Marr Chase all the way up to number 3 for me this week. The dude coming off a 200-yard performance going up against the New York Jets. The New York Jets really haven't been thrashed by any wide receivers, but it's going to happen this week. Stephon Diggs at number 4. Miami gives up a ton of fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. They've been awful, giving up the second most over the last few weeks. Stephon Diggs is going to have himself a pretty big performance this week. Justin Jefferson from Minnesota going up against Dallas. Minnesota was my Manscaped must-watch matchup this week because of all the fantasy points I anticipate among the wide receivers. A.J. Brown coming off back-to-back big performances now gets to play divisional rival Indianapolis on the road. That offense is clicking at the right time. Expect A.J. Brown to get it going again this week. Deebo Samuel going up against Chicago. The reason I got Deebo Samuel's floor just a little bit lower, don't love the matchup, not that great. Obviously, that offense has struggled a little bit, but Deebo's getting like all the targets right now, right? Everything is coming Deebo's way. So based on target volume alone, his ceiling puts him up in this top 10 range. DeAndre Hopkins for Arizona at number 8 going up against Green Bay, obviously. Green Bay continuing to be a little bit banged up in the secondary. DeAndre Hopkins would like to put him higher. There's just so many offensive weapons on that team right now. It kind of limits that ceiling every week. Chris Godwin at number 9, but he could end up going higher than that. As of right now, Antonio Brown expected to be out this week. He was seen at practice on Wednesday in crutches. We'll see if that changes at all, but as of this point, it doesn't look like he's playing this week. At number 10, CeeDee Lamb coming off the bye. Just mentioned it. Minnesota, Dallas could end up being a huge matchup for the wide receivers. Love me some CeeDee Lamb this week. Mike Williams at number 11, expecting a bounce back from him. His ceiling is the highest in this offense right now. Deontay Johnson, no Juju Smith-Schuster. They're coming out of the bye. They have to go to Cleveland in what could end up being a decently tough matchup, but Johnson's getting so many targets right now, he's doing just fine. DJ Moore is a little bit lower than what we'd like to do, especially going up against Atlanta, but Sam Darnold hasn't been playing well. The offense hasn't been playing well. Therefore, it's limiting some of DJ Moore's upside. Terry McLaurin coming in at number 14. Denver can be a tough matchup at times. What Denver defense will show up this week? It is on the road. Hopefully, Terry M can break himself a big play or two. DK Metcalf at number 15. I mean, outside of that huge big play the other night, he didn't do anything, right? Now, that's back-to-back weeks that he's underperformed, again, outside of one big play. So we've got that ceiling a little bit lower, even though it is Jacksonville with Geno Smith, the man, Geno, not playing like Russell Wilson, which who would expect him to anyway, right? Mike Evans at number 16 going up against New Orleans. This is about as high as I see his ceiling going. Why? Because Marshawn Lattimore has won a majority of their matchups in the past. At one point in time, Mike Evans was like 0 for 21 against Marshawn Lattimore and passes his way or something like that. I saw a little bit of a tidbit like that, but then it was on the screen, then it flashed away, and then I couldn't find what website it was. So, it basically, if you go back from the very beginning and take a look at Marshawn Lattimore versus Mike Evans, Lattimore has tended to own Mike Evans at time, including some stretches where Mike Evans just hasn't been able to perform. Even with even with Antonio Brown being out this week, Evans would have a smash matchup if it was anybody else. Michael Pittman at number 17 coming off, again, a couple of back-to-back really good performances, and now they get a Tennessee team that is playing better in the secondary as of late, but still giving up a lot of points to wide receivers. Calvin Ridley at number 18 going up against Carolina. I'd like to have Calvin Ridley higher. He's getting a good amount of volume. Those big plays that we've seen in the past just are not happening. Keenan Allen continues to be a target hog. He gets New England this week. But again, Mike Evans is taking so much volume and so much of the big play this year that Keenan Allen just hasn't had a chance to really get it. I'm not out on Keenan Allen. I love myself some Keenan. He's right behind me, obviously. But I have to be honest with the fact that his ceiling is just lower this year because of the fact that Mike Williams is playing so well. Amari Cooper at number 20. Hopefully he's fully healthy. He's been banged up a little bit. Some of those big plays haven't been there, but he's been a threat in the red zone. Dak is still looking his way often. With Amari Cooper at this point, you got to play him. I just think CeeDee Lamb this week ends up seeing the majority of the volume. T. Higgins going up against the New York Jets saw 15 targets come his way last week. Just kept peppering with targets, even though he wasn't really breaking off big plays. Joe Burrow just continued to go after him. Adam Thielen at number 22 going up against Dallas. Again, another really good matchup. Adam Thielen hasn't been the touchdown monster this year that he has been in the past. Obviously a good chance at finding the end zone for Adam Thielen this week. I just expect that volume to go to Justin Jefferson. Courtland Sutton at number 23 going up against Washington. I would love to have Courtland Sutton higher, but since I did my start and sit video, basically they've come out and said Jerry Jeudy should be good to go for this weekend. Because of that, Courtland Sutton's ceiling does come down a little bit, but Washington is a really good matchup for this team. Robert Woods for LA going up against Houston. I mean, he's ticking up, right? He's ticking up. He's into the top 12 wide receivers over the last few weeks. He's getting better and better and better. Just worry about potential volume this week because it is Houston. Chase Claypool going up against Cleveland, the big play guy. Let's see if he can get back to producing. Devontae Smith at number 26 going up against Detroit. It depends on what Jalen Hurts shows up this week. If it's a good Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith could go over 100 yards and a touchdown. If it's the inconsistent Jalen Hurts, then we're looking at a guy that right around maybe 60, 70 yards, maybe 5 receptions or so. We need Hurts to pick it up. If you have got Devontae Smith this week against Detroit, it's got the opportunity, but Hurts has just been so darn inconsistent as a passer. Emmanuel Sanders and Cole Beasley back-to-back together here at 27 and 28 against Miami. No Dawson Knox this week, so expect both of these guys to see a decent amount of volume. Marvin Jones going up against Seattle. The big playability continues to be there. Hopefully coming out of the bye for Jacksonville, they got the game plan settled in for them. Marquez Callaway from New Orleans going up against Tampa Bay. Not only is it a pretty decent matchup, but are we going to see a little Jameis Winston redemption game this week? If he does, Marquez Callaway is going to have to be right at the center of it. Brandon Cooks going up against the LA Rams. You know, who's he going to see? Who's going to be across from him? Are we going to see Jalen Ramsey get out there a little bit? Probably not. I don't expect too much of Jalen Ramsey this week for Brandon Cooks, but because this has just been such an inconsistent offense, hopefully we get some Ty God Taylor back soon to help out with it. Jalen Waddle is a start for me this week, but it is an awful matchup. Excuse me. It's an awful matchup going up against Buffalo. Julio Jones for Tennessee going up against Indianapolis at number 33. As he gets healthier, his performance is going to tick up. We're still starting him. Jerry Jeudy, first game back, but it's a really, really good matchup. I'm expecting him to hit that ceiling of around wide receiver 3 status. Terry Lockett going up against Jacksonville. Did I call him Terry Lockett? Tyler Lockett going up against Jacksonville. Got him a little bit lower at 35. Laviska Shenault, obviously, we saw him get a little bit more volume the last time that they played over in London. Can they get the ball to him more often? Christian Kirk at number 37. I'd like to go higher with him, but when you've got all these weapons around him, it's really hard to do that. But I do have a ceiling, the second highest on this team this week, outside of our boy, DeAndre. Sterling Shepard at number 38. As of right now, no for sure word on whether or not he's going to play this week. There is not a questionable tag on him as of right now. We'll have to monitor that going up against Kansas City. If he plays this week, that's excellent, but hopefully he does play. Jacoby Myers against the Chargers. This is not a good matchup. The Chargers absolutely dominate opposing wide receivers, and because of that, Jacoby Myers for me has a has a floor under 10 points this week, but because he's the main wide receiver, he's going to have a ceiling right around 15 points if he can score, but that's something he has not been able to do in his career so far. Jarvis Landry going up against Pittsburgh. Right now, no injury designation, but he did not practice on Wednesday. We'll see if he gets some late week practice in. Did kind of bang up that knee again a little bit at the end of the game last week, but we need to get him rolling. If he's healthy, he's going to be in this area. AJ Green going up against Green Bay. Would like to have him higher. Again, it's the same thing as all the other Arizona wide receivers. I'd like to have him higher. I can't, though, because there's so many of them. And now they got Zach Ertz as well. Allen Robinson at number 42. He's a sit this week, but he still deserves to be within the top 50 because just the opportunity and the potential is there. Randall Cobb at number 43. I would have him a little bit higher, but for me personally, I don't know what's going to happen between him and Marquez Valdes-Scantling. That's kind of what I'm waiting on right now because MVS made the trip, and he's coming up at number 46. MVS made the trip to San Francisco, but he has not yet been taken off the IR because they don't have to do it until Thursday at some point. Well, I record this video Wednesday night, so I can't wait on that. So Randall Cobb, as of right now, he's around 43 because if MVS plays, I'm expecting a little bit more from MVS. If he doesn't end up playing, then we got to bump Randall Cobb up a little bit more. Still don't love it in terms of volume. I think we see way more of the running backs this week, but still we got to put him up there because he'll be the number one if Lazard, MVS, and Devontae Adams are all out. Odell Beckham Jr. coming in at number 44. He is a start for me this week, but I mean, again, it's been a tough offense so far this week or this season. A lot of up and down performances. Case Keenum does look to be a guy that might be able to help OBJ kind of break out a little bit this season. Darius Slayton at number 45. Again, no idea right now on Sterling Shepard. That's going to make some difference here. If Sterling Shepard goes out, Darius Slayton goes higher. Talked about MVS already at 46, 47. Jamison Crowder, like the matchup against Cincinnati this week. I think he's going to be really, really big for Mike White, who's going to be the starting quarterback. The outside, the cornerbacks, great matchups for them going up against Corey Davis. But Jamison Crowder in the slot has a more favorable matchup for him if he can get himself free in the middle of the field, we're going to see a decent amount of targets because the Cincinnati cornerbacks are going to lock down the wide receivers for New York. Darnell Mooney at number 48 here. Again, kind of looking at upside. His upside puts him in this area. Corey Davis at 49. Don't love the upside at all this week. Definitely don't love the floor. I've got his under on Prize Picks right now for receiving yards. And Van Jefferson at number 50. All he needs is a touchdown really to kind of get into this area, and that's very well possible going up against the Houston Texans. Now let's jump on over to our top 20 tight ends. Number 1, Travis Kelce, always right here. Number 2, Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts coming in at number 2 this week because of how well he's been playing. He's been one of the best tight ends in the league the last couple of weeks, finally seeing that ceiling that we hoped that we would have seen earlier in the year. Dallas Goedert and TJ Hockenson going up against each other right here, back to back. Goddard is going to be one of the safest tight ends in the league the rest of the season. TJ Hockenson, a few bad performances after a huge start to the year, starting to work his way back. Hopefully that continues against Philadelphia. Tyler Higbee going up against Houston, who gives up the 3rd most fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends. Definitely a great play. Definitely high upside for Tyler Higbee this week. Dalton Schultz going up against Minnesota is an okay play. Minnesota has done some decent work against tight ends this year. But with that being said, this is Dak. This is Dallas. They're going to be throwing a lot. Dalton Schultz. The main thing at this point, though, okay, Michael Gallup is practicing again. We got to monitor that with Dalton Schultz. Mike Gesicki has an awful matchup this week. His ceiling would be a lot higher if it was a better matchup, but because it's so bad, we got to move him down. But his matchup has a little bit more favorable outcomes than what the wide receivers do for Miami. Hunter Henry for New England at number 8 going up against the Chargers. A little Hunter Henry redemption maybe here. Henry getting himself into the end zone each of the last few weeks. He's looking really, really good now. Noah Fant for Denver against Washington. The matchup is so good for the wide receivers. I've just got Fant a little bit lower because of that. Robert Tonyan at number 10 going up against Arizona. He's now a start for me. If you watch the tight end start and sit video, he was a sit, but that was before I knew about Lazard. That was before I knew about MVS not being off the IR yet. It was before all of those things, right? So now that we're redoing the rankings, and this is why you need to watch both shows, now that we're doing the rankings, looking at Robert Tonyan, he is a guy that even though the ceiling is decent for him this week, the floor scares the absolute heck out of me just because he's been so bad this season. But with no other options there, he's going to get some targets, but Arizona has been good against opposing tight ends. Also in that same matchup, Zach Ertz for Arizona. I'd like to have him higher, but again, you've got DeAndre Hopkins. You've got AJ Green. You've got Christian Kirk. You've got Rondell Moore. You've got James Conner on the ground. You've got Chase Edmonds on the ground and through the air a little bit. Last week, Zach Ertz, one big play really made the entire fantasy weekend for him. He doesn't catch that big touchdown there. He has 2 catches for like 30-something yards. That's not great, right? That would have gotten you all of 4 points in half PPR leagues. So it was great to see him do well. And I told all of you, he could absolutely blow up. It's a great matchup for him to do it. I'm just concerned about potential volume for him to start until he really settles into his role here in Arizona. So we're going to have him as a top 12 tight end. Just make sure that you understand, because of all the weapons around him, the ceiling, there could be some inconsistencies in his performances the rest of the year. CJ, who's your mama, going up against the New York Jets? We got to have him in here at wide receiver 1, within the tight end ones. Why? Because the dude's just balling right now. Jonnu Smith at number 13 also going up against LAC. Got him inside the top 13 along with Hunter Henry. Jonnu Smith, a little bit of extra work last week, kind of settled down towards the end of the game, but LAC gives up way more fantasy points to tight ends than they do wide receivers. Ricky Seals-Jones, it is a tough matchup for him, but he's getting 7 targets a game. We still got him as a start. Mo Problems at number 15 against Tennessee. Like his opportunity to score a touchdown. Still waiting on whether or not T.Y. Hilton will be in this week. Jared Cook at number 16. Don't love the matchup, but for some reason, if Williams or Allen or Eckler doesn't end up getting the targets, Cook does. He is a guy that you can rely on to maybe get you a few points, even if the ceiling is not high every single week. Dan Arnold at number 17 going up against Seattle. Talked about him being a guy that they're getting slowly worked into the offense a little bit more. And maybe after the bye, they really got him ready to go. Rob Gronkowski is going to come in at number 18. He is starting to practice again, but will he play again this week? If he does end up playing, I'm going to move him up probably above Ricky Seals-Jones to tight end 14. I don't think we see a full workload from him this week. I think we see him ease back in a little bit. If he was 100% healthy, I would absolutely love this matchup for him, because Marshawn Lattimore has done such a good job against Mike Evans, and there's not going to be any Antonio Brown. So for Rob Gronkowski, if we're talking about ceiling, if you said to me, Kyle, Rob Gronkowski is going to have a full workload on Sunday, you know what I'm going to do with Rob Gronkowski? He's going all the way up to tight end 5 probably. But until I know that he's going to have a full workload, until I see somebody say it, until I see that he's for sure in, until I see that he's practiced all week, I got to be careful with it. Just know with Rob Gronkowski, if you're going to chance it this week, you could end up coming out looking like an absolute legend, or you could be coming out looking like an absolute dud. Got to keep an eye on what the reports say about him the rest of the week. Gerald Everett at number 19 going up against Jacksonville. Like this matchup for him as well. And Tyler Conklin from Minnesota going up against Dallas. Another decent matchup for him. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. 50 wide receivers, 20 tight ends, breaking them down in the rankings. Do me a favor, hit that like button. Why? Because we put in so much work here. It's free. It helps support the channel. It helps more than you could ever know. And it's super easy to do. Just click it. Just click it. And make sure you leave a comment down below. How many guys do you have inside the top 50? Is there anyone inside the top 50 this week? Is there somebody that you didn't see that you have to play? Let me know. And if you're new here, the Fantasy Headliners, you got to subscribe and become a part of Headliner Nation today. I'm going to get out of here, though. All of you enjoy Thursday Night Football. All of you enjoy this weekend of football. I'll see you on the live show Saturday night. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.
I'm a headliner.